I am Craig Smith. Today I'm going to be talking to a friend of mine. He goes by Nico Giles. Let's go. Sound of alarm. Sound of alarm. Sound of alarm.
Man, as I've gotten older, and I think even a moment like this for all of us, I've realized I have to balance certain things that I didn't enter into the equation, like my mental health, my own physical activity, like a well balanced life versus like simply a balanced career or a balanced uh, going after like like a balanced portfolio, for lack of a better word in this
Right.
context. Like let me try a little bit of this, let me try a little bit of that. It's more like, man, let me really be sure I'm taking care of my mental, reading pieces of work that inspire me, reading longer pieces of work. Um, but that's interesting, man, because I feel like the last few years I've been back and forth on should I be balanced? The old answer, should you balance? Should you kind of spread things a little bit thin and have a balanced portfolio? Or should you go all in on that one thing that
Right.
you know? And for me, I've never there's never been anything that's so compelling or inspiring to me where it's like I am 110% devoted to this. I have a little bit of envy for people that are like that because there's so much clarity around what I should be doing with my time and my energy. So for me, man, it's been more so focusing on balancing myself, my mental
Yeah.
health, doing some pretty serious practices. Got into therapy about 6 or 8 months ago. Really started taking that seriously.
Mm.
Started journaling a lot more. Really looking at it as something to be worked on daily, and that it is a practice that, like anything, you get better at the more you do it. Um, yeah, that's what I would say. I'm balancing the most, and trying to keep everything just moving forward.
Got you. When it comes to when it comes to things like therapy and meditation, for me, it took me a while to um, to understand exactly what therapy was doing for me, and just from my experience, it was allowing me to think about things I'd always thought about but differently, and
Hmm.
take stock of what was happening around me and inside me, and really be honest about how I felt about those things.
Hmm.
So is it a similar experience for you?
Yeah, that's true. That's what's so interesting about therapy is you're faced with certain things. If you're fortunate to have a good therapist that really helps you process things, and then at that point you have to decide if you will accept and acknowledge those things. Like for me, it's anxiety.
Mm.
Like I have anxiety, and it's something I've always wrestled with. Like you said, that feeling has always been there, but now I have a lot of clarity around exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But still, you have a choice. Like, okay, am I going to accept this diagnosis? And I think that there's a grain of salt that has to be with that. You have to have enough internal, clarity to say, okay, I accept it up to this point, or okay, I recognize I have this now. Let me be empowered by
Yeah.
this. Not to look at it as something that's like, oh, woe is me. Finally I have something that I can lean on as a crutch to, like not taking that route and trying to stay empowered by it. But yeah, man, it's dealing with yourself dealing with yourself is serious, serious work.
Yeah.
you know like it's real, and only you can do it, and you have to find ways to communicate that to the people that you love the most, of like, hey, because I am going to deal with this thing and deal with myself, it's going to get worse before it gets better,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Like anything, you got to get in there and really deal with it. I was talking to my mom's the other day. Essentially, I can't remember what she said it word for word, but essentially, like, you got to go through the suffering, you got to embrace it, you got to lean into it, you got to really deal with it. And so I'm doing that to the best degree possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, really facing it for sure.
Do people have a misconception about you in light of all of this? Like, are people, if you ever divulge this information to people, are they ever shocked? Like, I thought you had it all going on, figured out.
uh um hmm. Yeah, no, it hasn't been one where I have, to that degree. I think what's the caution is that if you do divulge it can accidentally become weaponized for people,
Hmm.
right? They can say, oh, you're just responding this way because you have anxiety.
Uh,
When you really might be addressing some real issues that need to be, worked
right,
out.
yeah,
And so I think there's a thin line to make sure that when you divulge those things, that it's within the confines of that is protected,
right.
so that your own battles don't become weaponized against you. But there has to be a high level of self awareness enough to say in that moment, to say, "Damn, maybe you're right.
Mm,
Maybe I am responding out of X, Y, and Z." And really evaluating yourself from that point.
yeah. So with this whole COVID-19 thing that's been going on, and I hesitate to even bring it up because I was just sick of hearing about it. But like one of the things that I've been doing is trying to get back to the things that that I really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and just full disclosure for everybody watching and then for you as well. I did not realize how big a deal the WWF was in my life.
Fair enough.
Until I just was on a whim, was just like, let me get this network, and started watching all. So but it's like a simple joy from my childhood coming up was like, now I'm looking at, I'm like, what else do I enjoy, what else do I love, instead
Right.
of buying not buying into the fear. There's a lot of things to be afraid of, but instead of just absorbing so much of the commotion that's going on in the world, um,
Mm,
what
mm, mm.
what do you do with anxiety to allow yourself to, I don't want to say escape, but to
Right,
live
right, right.
amongst all of this madness?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to my earlier point of you got to feel it. And I think I don't know if that's something I've struggled with throughout my life. And I think especially in my adult years, because of my anxiety, that I've never just done something purely for the joy of it. It's
Mm,
always had to have some type of utilitarian purpose.
same.
uh, and so I think I've just been trying to allow myself to sit in it more than I would, and journaling a lot. Getting back to reading though, that's I think a practical thing that I used to do a lot. Early 20s, I'm 28, almost 29 now, but like, right at that turn, you becoming a man. You like, let me equip myself with some knowledge. You start picking up books that are just like these popular, top 10, top 20, top 30 books that everyone, just top of the list.
Yeah.
And just enjoying that journey, man. Getting back into that journey. One I'm in right now is this one's called The Originals. It was suggested to me by my good friend Adam Miller. How nonconformists move the world. It's been pretty good thus far. Um, so that's one, another quick plug. Shout out. This one I just got into. It's called Anatomy of the Spirit.
Hmm.
I don't know if you could read that,
Yeah.
but it was a highly suggested spiritual book, and one I'm just diving into as well. And so that's kind of why I'm able to lose myself the most in terms of letting go of that anxiety, and just being present is reading good work. And so trying to take room for that right now.
For sure, man. That's two good plugs that I had never. I think what I'm reading, I'm actually making my kids, whenever they get in trouble, they have to write word for word the autobiography of Malcolm X
Oh
and the
man,
autobiography of Frederick Douglass. Uh,
that's next level. I should have thought of that. That's next
no,
level. I'm
it's
gonna hold that when I get some kids, man.
dude, you got it. When it came from, actually, I used to live out here when I was around 13, and I got in trouble, and my dad made me read two books. He made me read this book called Bloods, which it didn't really go over the origin of the gang. It was more so
Mm,
about black soldiers in like Vietnam. And then
mm.
there's the autobiography of Malcolm X. So to this day, it's a deep respect for literature, especially about people who overcome
Mm.
all of the strife,
The plight,
the
right?
plight. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Hey, so I've been wanting to ask, like, what we come from similar backgrounds as far as geographically, and
Mm-hmm.
just both coming up in a context that's very black, and
Mm-hmm.
in ways very stereotypically black. I know a little bit of your story.
Mm-hmm.
To grow up and to bear witness to a lot of success around you and a lot of hurt and pain around you at the same time. What drives someone like you to be who you are, to come out to Los Angeles and say, I want to go for this thing that does not exist in the world I come from?
Right, right. It's a good question. Thanks for asking, and it's one that I'm having to answer on a director's statement for a an application right now for a film
Oh,
festival, and
snap.
it's one that it's one that I'm trying to wrap my brain around as well. Like why do I feel so compelled to tell these stories?
Mm,
Let's just say socially relevant issues. We the last doc we just finished was on housing discrimination, real estate discrimination,
right.
and I feel like it's one of those things, man, where God, I really believe God places certain things on our hearts,
Yeah.
and like it's up to us to cultivate those and find reason behind those and to challenge them to see what stands through the storm, all of those things. But I think as I get older, I realize empathy is a thing that God really put on my heart. Like, and I think empathy in and of itself is a term and a consciousness that has grown with our generation.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think it's one that I don't think it's one that was people. I don't think people were using the word empathy 30 years ago. Essentially, is what
Mm,
I'm saying. I don't know how much context and language was around it. So I didn't have growing up as a kid. I didn't have adults to say, "Hey, you're feeling this way. This is great. This is empathy." This,
right.
it was it. So I just had to figure it out myself. But I do remember, and this is so crazy. Earlier in my life, I remember looking at people saying, "I can feel what you're feeling." And it wasn't one of those things where they're bursting out crying or like pure devastation or anger. It's just a settled tone of emotion that we all experience every single day,
Yeah.
and those that can tap into that find a unique way to connect with people. And I think that pursuing that piece of empathy has really helped me understand that we are all so much more alike than we are different,
Yeah.
and the issues that arise, we could go on a list, whether it be healthcare, criminal justice reform, housing, you name it, school segregation, whatever it is. The issues that separate us, we're all much more alike as people. And I think that if we can raise awareness around those and really show the connecting tissue that we all want the same thing out of this.
Mm,
And so that's just so for housing, for example, that came to my awareness because we moved around a lot when I was a kid.
right.
Um, and I realized some areas were nicer than others, and so when I became older, I cognitively knew some areas are better than others, and I think just that curiosity for why is what drove me to understand issues like historical discrimination in housing, real
Right.
racially restrictive covenants, redlining, you name it. So I don't know, man. I think it's accumulation. I think all of us, um, each of us go through life and experience these moments.
Mm,
And I think that is really, if we latch onto those and really reflect and sit and think about what has our life experience taught us and what value can we add to the world,
right.
then we all have some unique lens to offer the world. I think the biggest step past that I run into, regardless of everyone else, the biggest thing I run into is the courage to believe my voice actually matters.
Man. Yeah.
I've seen this, I heard it, I understand it. I saw my family deal with it. I saw my cousins deal with it. I saw the school deal with it. Now I know this is true. Now the bigger thing is, do I actually have the courage
Yeah.
to say something about it?
Yeah. That was one of the. Thank you for sharing that. That's one of the things that scared me the first time I made a video that people shared a lot, or made
Mm,
a video that that resonated with people, or that they argued with. Is like, how is what I'm saying from my brain and my personal experience being absorbed by people like that? You know what I'm saying? And there was,
mm,
it takes, like you said, courage, because after you realize, like, you do make an impact on people around you, or people that you may never even have met, or ever meet. It can be a daunting thing. Like, who am I?
mm.
Like, I don't have a,
Right,
you
right,
know what I'm
right.
saying? I don't have a degree in.
Man, it happened to me just yesterday, man, that I reflected on something. I think it was LinkedIn. I was gonna post something, but I was just typing. I was like, let me just type this out. This was yesterday, I think. I was like, let me just type it out, get my thought down, and then I'll post it tomorrow. And this morning I woke up and I was like, nah, this is stupid. No one's gonna care about this, you know.
Mm,
And it's like that's what I realized is the problem. It's like don't do it because you want someone else to care about it. Do it because it's an authentic expression of your point of view.
mm,
And if you do it from that point of view, the people who do care about it are gonna really care about you, you know,
yeah.
rather than this version of
Hmm.
yourself that you put out to the world. Um, and so that's what I'm trying to get back to is can I do I have the courage to put this out into the world in a version that's authentically me,
Yeah.
you know, not yeah.
Yeah, I have a tendency to want to sanitize things, and by the time I actually get it perfect, it's just like, I'm never gonna upload.
Right, the moment's gone. Right,
Right,
exactly.
man. I really appreciate you sharing that. I really appreciate you being willing to do this as well. You're one of the people that I admire a lot because and from afar, and then we it seems like we are always trying to get closer together. You
Right,
know what I'm
right,
saying? And something or another
right.
just happens to deter it. But one thing that I really, really, really admire about what you do is that you make it, and this is what I like about musicians or the people that I idolize and love the most, make it look easy. You
Mm,
seem to have a zest and a curiosity for what you do that makes it like, dude, he woke up this morning and this was what he was gonna do. And
mm,
to know that you deal with anxiety it humanizes the experience,
mm.
especially for me, somebody who's like, dude, I don't know if I could do this. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Because I have,
right, right,
I have lofty imagination, dreams, and goals. You know what I'm saying? But you're
right,
one of the
right.
people
Go
that,
for it, man.
yeah, you're one of the people that that definitely make it seem like I can do whatever I put my mind to. So thank you for
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
for giving into that. Um, I had another question for you. I just don't remember what it was. I will say that I do believe that light skinned dudes will change the world. It's not even a question. But aside from that, man, I just got a lot of gratitude, man. Thank you
Absolutely, bro. No, thank you for the opportunity. Glad, last minute, but glad we could make it work, man, and just tap in and have a quick conversation.
for sure, dude.